This is my story. The story of a man once named Ethan, who, while dreaming his biggest dreams, suffered a horrific betrayal by his most trusted friends and the woman he loved. It's the story of a man who experienced immense trauma from the poison that pierced his heart, losing everything and falling into despair. And then, within the cold walls of prison, he found a wise mentor like Silas, who gave him a hand, helping him rise from the ashes. This is the story of a man who took on the identity of Cain, vowing revenge to make those who wronged him pay. But unfortunately, at the end of his quest for vengeance, he discovered that the shadows of the past never left him, and that despite the betrayal, his love still lingered in his heart, causing him to fall for love once more. This is the complex and painful journey of justice. Before you start a story, you need to know its characters, right? In my story, there are heroes and there are villains, but most of all, there are paths drawn by fate. This story takes place in the heart of the American West, in a glittering yet dusty city called Fortuna Springs. Specifically in the Silver Dollar District, where medium-sized casinos and the streets of lost hopes intertwine. This is a land where every step is a struggle, where friendship and betrayal live side by side, and where justice is sometimes written with your own hands. First, I want to introduce you to my closest friends who betrayed me in this story. The mentor who reshaped me into a different man and helped me cling to life again, and finally Scarlett, whose love outweighed her betrayal. First, there was Ethan. That was me when the story began. I was 28, fresh out of the military, hardworking, incredibly honest, proud, and perhaps naive. I had endless trust in people, saw the purest side of life. My biggest dream was to marry Scarlett, the love of my life, and build a happy home. Frank was like an older brother to me. He was family. Then there's Scarlett, 25 years old, tall, dark-haired, and a woman whose beauty captivated everyone. She worked at a salon and she had dreams, big dreams. And those dreams involved a bit of wealth. Unfortunately, her little sister had cancer and needed urgent surgery. This desperation is what led her to the great betrayal that stabbed me in the back. Scarlett's story is one of love, desperation, and the agony of a guilty conscience. Next, Frank. In his 40s, he worked with me at the auto repair shop. He treated me like his own brother, always protected me from danger. He was like a big brother to all of us. But unfortunately, he unwillingly fell into Billy's trap and became complicit in my betrayal. He lived with that regret his whole life, I know it. Frank's story is about how good intentions can lead down a dark path and how regret can haunt a lifetime. And of course, Billy. The same age as me, we grew up together. He was a bit of a scamp, always getting into trouble and hooked on gambling. Whenever he was in a tight spot, Frank and I would bail him out. But he harbored a secret, his obsessive love for Scarlett. My being with Scarlett always rubbed him the wrong way. He was always looking for an opening, always wanting to take my place. Billy was the main architect of this betrayal, the one who wanted it to happen most. Billy's story is about how jealousy and ambition can drag a person into such darkness. Finally, Silas. In his 60s, a wise man I met in prison with a dark but mysterious past. He became a father figure to me. He pulled me out of that deep hole, allowing me to be reborn. He was very wealthy with a vast network. If I hadn't met him, I might never have become either Ethan or Cain. Silas's story is about how a mentor, a guide, can change a person's life. And of course, Cain. The name I took when I was reborn with the scars on my face. That innocent, pure Ethan died within the prison walls. In his place came a cold, calculating, methodical, and ruthless man. A Cain who trusted no one, who calculated every move, who wore his emotions like armor. The pain of Ethan and the hunger for revenge inside me transformed me into this new identity. I became rich. I became a gambler. I became a respected businessman. but the only voice inside me commanded me to make those who betrayed me pay. This is my story, Cain's story, about how revenge can turn a man into a monster, but also how even the last shred of light in the heart can change everything. So these are the characters, the cornerstones of my story. Now get ready to hear how these stones tumbled, leading to destruction and then to a rebirth. Every story starts with a beginning, right? Mine started that way too, with the purest, cleanest, most hopeful moments of my life. My name was Ethan back then, fresh out of the army, full of dreams for the future, a young man in his late 20s. How could I have known that innocence, that trust would one day turn into the sharpest blade? In the neighborhood, I worked at the auto repair shop with Frank. Frank treated me like his own brother, always covering my back in every danger. He was more than an older brother to me. I thought he'd be the first person to be there for me through all of life's ups and downs. My father was old and I had a younger sibling. My whole life revolved around them and the love of my life, Scarlett. Scarlett. Her name alone would warm my heart. Tall, dark-haired, a woman whose beauty captivated everyone. She worked at a hair salon and she had dreams. Big dreams. And I tried my best to make her dreams come true. Getting married, building a home. Simple, but for me it was the greatest happiness in the world. I shared all of this with Frank and another childhood friend, Billy. I thought they shared this dream with me too. I couldn't have known how wrong I was. Billy. Back then, he was just a mischievous, somewhat reckless friend to me. He was always getting into trouble, addicted to gambling. Whenever he was in a tight spot, Frank and I would pick him up. But he harbored a secret, his obsessive love for Scarlett. My being with Scarlett just didn't sit right with him. He was always looking for an opening, always wanting to take my place. Billy was the main architect of this betrayal, the one who most wanted it to happen. He'd play little games Scarlett would notice, but she'd try to ignore it because Billy was my friend. That's when fate had already begun to weave its web.
My sister's condition. The doctors. Surgery is essential. Otherwise we'll lose her. We don't have the money, Ethan. What are we gonna do?
Scarlett's little sister had cancer. She needed surgery, a very expensive one. This desperation planted a seed in Scarlett's heart. And Billy wasted no time in making that seed grow.
Scarlett, listen to me. There's a way out, a big one, but it's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Whatever it takes, Billy, I'll do anything for my sister. Anything.
Billy put the idea of a casino heist into Scarlett's mind. He'd get rich, and he'd frame me, making Scarlett dependent on him. Frank. He also joined the plan reluctantly. Scarlett said she loved her sister very much and would do anything for her. But that anything would be my life. Frank wrestled with his conscience, I know. But Billy's pressure, financial struggles. People sometimes change so much, become so weak.
Billy, for God's sake, don't. Ethan, he's our brother. How can we do this to him?
Shut up, Frank. Brotherhood doesn't pay the bills in this life. We either find the money or we all go down. Your choice.
And then Scarlett. The desperation I saw in her eyes, the compassion for her sister. Should I have ignored her betrayal because of that? She was caught between her love for me and her sister's life, and she chose her sister. My life was sacrificed for her sister's. The plan was flawless. Everything was supposed to be pinned on me. On that day, I was going to propose to Scarlett. It was going to be the happiest moment of my life. In that instant, the police arrived. As they threw me to the ground and handcuffed me, the fear and regret I saw in Scarlett's eyes. I couldn't tell if it was fleeting or real. Casino robbery, murder, prison. That's when Ethan died. And in his place, an unknown void remained. Prison. The place where I sought justice became the place where my justice was stolen. Days, nights, they were all the same. The Ethan inside me was fading a little more each day. Why? How? Scarlett. She was the one who burned me the most. How could that woman do this to me? Young man, that emptiness I see in your eyes, that scorching pain. Once the same fire burned inside me. Your pain, son, plays a familiar melody in my soul. I know this inferno. In this world, you get the deepest scars from the people you trust the most, the ones you lend a hand to, share your bread with, give your life for. Other enemies come from the outside. They might just leave a scratch on your body, but a close friend, a spouse, they strike from within. That knife doesn't just cut your flesh, it severs your trust, your faith, all your hopes for the future, and all that's left is rubble. Your soul is bleeding, son. I hear that ache with every breath you take. But remember, the deepest wounds sometimes give birth to the greatest strengths. The important thing is not to let that wound swallow you, or to turn it into your own weapon. Silas, he became a father figure to me. He had a dark past, yes, but his words were like the whispers of a sage. He listened to my story. As he listened, the mysterious glint in his eyes changed. He decided to help me. He was the architect who would create Cain from Ethan's ashes.
Revenge. The important thing isn't just to take it. The important thing is how you take it. With patience, with intelligence, with a plan. They stabbed you in the back. You will strike them in their very souls. You will be reborn, son. A rebirth so profound, no one will recognize you.
Kate's final blow, a guard's attack. My face, it became unrecognizable. But this, as Silas said, was not an end, but a beginning. With his connections, I underwent secret surgeries in the hospitals, known to no one. My face changed, my body changed. That innocent Ethan was gone. I became Cain. Every fiber of my being was filled with revenge. Now I had one goal, to return and deliver justice with my own hands to those who caused me this pain. When I got out of prison armed with Silas's teachings and thanks to his vast network, I quickly rose in the business world. With intelligence, ambition, and the opportunities Silas provided, I quickly amassed a great fortune, becoming a respected and successful businessman. At the same time, with the strategies I learned from Silas in prison and my talent in the gambling world, I became known as a master gambler. The public knew him, the new Cain, as a benevolent businessman, while no one knew his true identity or his painful past. Years passed. I waited patiently, and one day, that invitation came. To the opening of their new hotels, their new casinos. That was the moment, the first encounter. Scarlett. When I saw her in front of me after all those years, the Ethan inside me came alive for a moment. Pain, anger, and a love that still wouldn't fade. It all mingled together. She didn't recognize me. Neither did Billy or Frank. No one recognized me. My face, my voice, my demeanor, everything had changed. Or maybe they just thought I had changed. But I remembered everything. Every single betrayal.
Cain, I feel like I know you from somewhere. Your voice? It's very familiar.
Perhaps fate brought our paths together before. Who knows, Scarlett? It was easy to gain their trust after spending a lot of time together. Business deals, trips, gambling parties, dinners. After all, they weren't expecting someone so similar to themselves. Especially slipping back into Scarlett's heart. That was the most painful, most intricate part of my revenge, making her fall in love with me again. In her eyes, there was an undeniable pull when she tried to escape but couldn't. When she whispered that she wanted to leave Billy and marry me, the pain of Ethan inside me grew even more. This time, she was the one betraying, just like they had done to me. My plan was running like clockwork. This web I had meticulously woven for years, every detail calculated, began to tangle around their feet. Their greed, their gambling addiction, their illegal connections, All of it was waiting for me. It was only a matter of time before they fell into their own trap. Their biggest weakness was their greed for money and their mistrust of each other. I struck them right there. It started with a thin thread, and then that thread became a steel cable. That night, that big game night they hosted at their own casino. Millions changing hands at the high rollers tables, fake laughter, hopes drowned at the bottom of a bottle. I was a shadow among them. I watched their every move, heard their every whisper. And then, at that very moment, in the midst of all that fake grandeur, siren sounds rose from outside. The police raided. As they swarmed in, tables overturned, people screamed and scattered. I'll never forget the look of shock on Billy's face, or the indescribable fear in Frank's eyes. My intelligence work, the evidence I collected. Each piece was like a bullet. All the dirty laundry they had hidden for years came tumbling out. Corruption related to the casino, illegal activities, even new evidence related to my old casino robbery case. Everything came to light. Frank and Billy fell into the trap they had set themselves. They experienced the exact same fate they had inflicted on me. Handcuffed, heads bowed, they were arrested in that crowd and sent to prison. Did the pain of Ethan inside me lighten then? Maybe for a moment. But the satisfaction I felt in that moment. The first act of my revenge had thus closed. I had harvested the first cold fruit of years of accumulated anger. But I knew the real reckoning had not yet begun. Now it was time for the source of the greatest pain, my reckoning with her most of all. Scarlett wasn't particularly upset about Frank and Billy going to prison. This created an opportunity she couldn't have achieved otherwise. She spent every day with me, and as the days passed, she fell even more in love with me. Scarlett had meticulously prepared a perfect ceremony to marry me. Everything was going just as she wanted. It felt like a new beginning, but for her, this would be the end. In the happiest moment of her life, she would experience the pain I had lived through. As her heart beat with the excitement of a new beginning, she was still unaware of how deep the shadow of the past ran.
Cain, we're here today. Ever since we met 2 months ago, my life has completely changed. You gave me back my lost hopes. I feel whole again when I'm with you. After all those dark days, I want to open a new chapter with you, a chapter that will last forever. Cain, will you marry me? Will you grant me this life? A new beginning.
That was the moment. The Ethan inside Cain relived the years of pain, every torment endured within the prison walls, every word Silas whispered to him, and the vow of revenge that had permeated his very being. His eyes flickered between the icy coldness of vengeance and the warmth of a past, innocent love. A storm of anger, a desire for justice, and a still lingering complex love raged within his soul. Finally, after all this internal battle, Cain, with his decision made in that moment, looks deep into Scarlett's eyes. And in that instant, time stands still, breaths are held. Cain, delivering all the truth, all the lived experience, the accumulated pain of years, and the unforgivable betrayal, speaks in Ethan's familiar, aching, yet still loving tone. In a trembling whisper, that single final line, "Grant me a new life?" Look into my eyes, Scarlett. Don't you recognize this face? Maybe I've changed so much. But how did you go on with your life while you took mine and let it rot within prison walls? This face, the one you claim to love now, is the cost of what you did to me. I am the man who paid that price. I am Ethan.
No, it can't be. Ethan? You?
There was horror, disbelief in her eyes, but that look told everything. She recognized me. All the truth, all the betrayal, all that terrible past crashed down on her at once. Tears streamed down her face. Regret, shame, guilt. It all overwhelmed her in an instant. And in that moment, with unbearable pain, she wanted to throw herself into the void. She thought death was the only way to escape this burden. I reached out. I caught her. My revenge. In that moment, the Ethan inside me defeated all of Cain. The ashes of love extinguished the fire of vengeance. The ambition I had nurtured for years wouldn't let me end her life, because I had never truly lost Ethan. And my love for Scarlett, despite all this destruction, still lived somewhere in my heart. Sometimes the greatest victory is letting go of revenge. Sometimes the greatest justice is finding mercy within yourself. My story on Here I Am. The man once named Ethan, now Cain, whispering this to you.